Hello and welcome to the Headache Doctor podcast, where on this podcast, it's our mission to educate and empower everyone with headaches and migraines so that you can break free from a life of fear of your next headache or migraine and dependence on medication. In today's podcast, we have a very special guest. This is Steve Marchese. He's the CEO of LightStim. And if you don't know what LightStim is, it's one of the leading manufacturers of red light therapy products on the market. And so it's very exciting because on this podcast, we talk all about things that provide alternative solutions, not just, well, specifically for headaches and migraines, but for pain relief in general. And so I think this is a really good fit. It's going to complement what we talk about all the time on this podcast. So, Steve, thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Steve, when we talked last, you were mentioning and very, very excited about some upcoming news in the market of red light therapy. And so I want you to talk about, in general, where the market's at currently. Maybe we can talk about why this is becoming such a popular product. It seems like influencers, the biohacking world is really excited about the opportunity of red light therapy. It's popping up all over. Maybe talk about why it's so exciting, and then we can get into the nuances of the different products on the market and how you guys differentiate yourself.
Great. Well, to kind of tell you like where I see it going, it would be pretty interesting because if you all remember on Star Trek, they used to have a room that somebody was all banged up and dying or whatever, and they just put him in this room and it would be light, and he would be miraculously, healed, and it's actually getting there. So if you do a little research on the internet, you'll see that NASA did some research on LED in the mid '90s, and it actually brought the LED technology up to a whole new level that had never been before. And the guy that did that research was a guy named Dr. Harry T. Wayland of Wisconsin Medical University. And he went on to become what we all look at as like the godfather, like the buck stops there with him as far as the number one authority in the world on anything LED and medical. He's done more than 50 clinical studies. And for about the last 10 years, if he didn't make the device himself in his lab at the university, he would have LightStim actually make the devices for him. And this will give you an idea of like what kind of stuff is being done with light. So we made devices for him these are all successful clinical studies, for reversing blindness caused by diabetes, for reversing macular degeneration, for healing the chest after open heart surgery, for elephantitis, for reducing inflammation of the brain caused by severe head trauma, like you see football players get, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then the really amazing one was we made a special LED light for them that activated a chemical, and it searched out and killed cancer cells in brain tumors. And
Wow.
So we feel very privileged to be able to work with him, and that he chose our devices. But you can see where it's going. Like most of those studies were completed like 4 years ago now, and so it's just continually developing, and we're finding new ways actually now for the brain. Like a lot of the most recent studies have been on the brain and what the positive influences on the brain that can be had.
Yeah, that's amazing. Actually, leading up to our podcast, I released a podcast talking about the benefits of red light therapy, connecting it to people specifically with headaches and migraines. But in the podcast, I talk a lot about ATP production, so the energy of the cell. It boosts the cellular energy, talking about oxidative stress or enhancing blood flow. And then producing like nitric oxide. So that vasodilation, the increasing of blood volume to the tissues for healing. One thing that was interesting in our last conversation is you talked about the difference between maybe a specific site of like an LED infiltrating the skin. And then you also meaning like a specific location compared to like globally across the body. So benefits of your whole body, like laying on a panel or something like that. And
It,
then, yeah, go ahead.
sorry. It is. It is much easier to address a specific location than it is to treat the whole body. And the
Yeah,
reason for that is the FDA has kind of determined that there's a particular temperature range that LED delivers the best benefits for. And it's not that it doesn't deliver benefits above that or below that, but it's so important that it's their only efficacy test for when you're talking about full body and pain, particularly pain and increased blood circulation and that sort of thing. And and so the differences are like when you just like maybe you have a shoulder pain and you've got a little handheld here, like we sell handhelds for this. A lot of people do, and
Mhm.
you could hold it in that area until you achieve that correct temperature and keep it there so that just in case the body part was dissipating heat, like let's say you were doing it on your wrist or something here, the wrist doesn't have as much mass to it, so it's going to dissipate the heat faster, so you'd need to
Sure.
leave the light there intact. But when you're doing the whole body, you have to solve the problem of this differentiation in mass. Like this torso is going to heat up pretty easily. Still not easy to hit this temperature range that the FDA wants, while at the same time not making the person sweat. And different, easier for here for the torso, but for the arms and legs, they have much less mass and they don't heat up as easily and they dissipate the heat very quickly. And it took us almost 6 years to solve this problem working with the FDA because nobody had ever passed this test before.
Hmm.
And what it ended up taking was we developed this technology where instead of just lying your body on a sheet or a layer of LEDs that aren't differentiated, so they're not going to treat your chest differently than your arms and legs. And you're never going to, like the arms and legs, according to Google, are 58 to 68% of your total body mass. So it's more than half of the body wouldn't be getting treated.
Hmm.
And so we came up with this idea of instead of having this sheet or a layer of LEDs, we divided that area into 30 separate modules of LEDs, and each module was maybe 6, 7 inches wide, maybe 9, 10 inches long, and held 600 or 800 LEDs. And in the center of each one of these modules, we designed and made, like, we are the manufacturer of all this stuff. We do it all in our facility in Irvine, California, which is FDA inspected and ISO inspected, and it's a lot of paperwork. And anyway, this sensor, what it would do was when you laid on the LED bed, it would immediately identify the temperature of a body part, its weight in mass, and start through a computer running the whole bed, start increasing the volume of that one module for this one specific part of the body. Let's say right
Hmm.
here,
Okay.
um, and it definitely would be increasing it. Where after you've been on the bed a while, your torso, the modules in your torso, these sensors might be actually lowering the temperature there so that it keeps it in that range that the FDA has determined is the real beneficial range. And we ended up patenting that technology, and we still are the only company that's ever been able to pass this efficacy test that the FDA has.
Okay. Okay. So when you're talking about if I'm listening to this podcast and I'm thinking about entering into like, okay, I'm going to explore red light therapy LED options near me. And if I'm looking at all the different options available, I don't know how many different manufacturers there are, but I'm sure there's several. Um, when we last spoke, you were saying that your product going through these FDA processes and then the specific patented design allows there to be that therapeutic level of heat leading to the benefits that we get. But is it true that a lot of the products on the market aren't necessarily like they might be LED red light, but the way they're designed isn't allowing for the same therapeutic effect? Is that correct?
That is correct, and the whole determining factor is being able to pass that test for the FDA. Now, what the FDA doesn't necessarily test on, but is just as big, if not it's actually a bigger issue, is depth of penetration. So you see websites bragging about our device puts out this much power, and we have these new super luminous LEDs, and they put out more than anybody else. The problem is that if you're first off, if you're further away than about 3/4 of an inch from the tip of the LED, there is no possibility of getting any depth of penetration. And this is one of the things that the FDA identified with us early on that we had to solve, which was you had to have the body, within about 3/4 of an inch, or LED just loses its intensity too quickly, and you'd only be lighting up the surface. If you're standing in front of a panel a foot away from, or 6 inches away, you're not gonna get any penetration. Or the same with anything that's got a top. Well, the top's never gonna fit somebody's body perfectly, not in their whole body. Or if it's one person, it isn't going to fit the next nine, because everybody's body types and sizes and shapes are different. So that was why we built a one-sided bed that you flip on halfway through the treatment. The bed lets you know that, and we're actually only 1/4 of an inch off the tip of the LED.
Hmm.
The other thing, there was another component to this, which was that we found that the acrylic we were using, as well as everybody's on the market, because we literally bought everybody's device on the market and tested it, was dispersing the light out. So you'd start out for getting good penetration of a light that's emitting light maybe between 15 and 45, or maybe 50 degrees at most. And any wider than that, it loses its intensity. And what would happen is when it hit the acrylic, it would disperse out to 180 degrees, and we get no penetration. Didn't matter we were 1/4 inch off the tip of the bulb. Didn't matter we had the right light being emitted. So we spent 2 years working with the 4 largest manufacturers in the U.S. of acrylics, and before we finally came up with an acrylic that actually let the light through, and so that you could get penetration. And here's the difference in why I say penetration is even a bigger deal than the temperature. If you're only able to light up the skin because you're further away and you've got the wrong acrylic and that sort of thing, and you're treating, let's just say, a 1 inch by 1 inch square of the skin, you're going to treat about 19 million cells. Almost exclusively, their job has to do with the skin. If you can go down 3/4 of an inch to an inch down, you're now treating between 450 and 600 million cells that have a wide variety of functions in the body that if this is a wellness thing, these are the guys you want to hit. Not you're going to hit the guys on the surface anyway, but you definitely want to get some benefit and get that penetration. And that's really, I think it's the most important thing.
Yeah, that's incredible. So we've got the temperature itself, and then we've got penetration. So we also talked about the exemption that allowed a lot of these companies to enter the market. Talk about that.
So I'm really dismayed at LightStim. Didn't know this sooner, but 4.5 years ago, the FDA was running into a bottleneck in that all these devices were coming over from China and trying to get FDA clearance. And by the way, clearance is the same thing as approval. The FDA approves drugs and they clear devices. It's the same safety and efficacy testing. They just use a different word for the 2 different departments. And we all thought, without reading the exemption, that it just meant that you could just put your device on the market and not make wild claims. And the FDA did this because of the bottleneck they had with all the devices coming over from China. And they were spending time on that and not spending time on a clinical trial where people maybe were being injured or died or something like that. And they wanted to solve the problem, so they came up with this exemption. And the problem was nobody read the exemption. And I have to say nobody read it because we didn't read it. Not that it would have affected us. We're still going to go through the FDA, the full route on clearance. But I have to think that that man is basically good, so I can't think that they're all
Hmm.
criminals and read it and just disregarded it. But the exemption actually says that you've got to qualify for the exemption. And among a number of things where a company could fall out, not passing certain tests and stuff like that in the qualification, the one thing that they absolutely have to do is they have to be able to pass that efficacy test. And so far, without our technology, nobody's been able to do that. So this is a problem for one, because the Federal Trade Commission put out a warning letter in April of 2023 to the health and wellness industry. And basically it says, you guys are duping the public with unsubstantiated claims and we're coming after you. And when they wrote that letter in April of 23, they had already had identified, investigated, and penalized 670 companies. I don't know how
Wow.
many since then. Yeah.
Wow.
So everybody, when it doesn't say FDA cleared, it doesn't say matter if it says it's an FDA medical device, class 2 device. It does, like, if it doesn't say cleared, and if it does say cleared, the first thing you want to know is, like, how'd you pass that test? That that's the most important thing.
Yeah, and essentially the test is the FDA saying that this product has the qualities that it needs to be therapeutic to um, yeah,
Exactly.
to provide the
That's
benefits that when you enter into a healthcare facility or a wellness center and you're getting LED red light therapy, that you're actually getting what you're paying for, type of thing, right?
right. Right.
Okay, yeah, that's so. I mean, in a sense, are you saying that LightStim is the only product on the market that can be trusted? Are there other products out there that, like, how do people discern what's going to be a true red light therapy treatment for them?
So I'm only talking about full body that this
Full body.
applies to. So
Okay.
there are lots of other devices on the marketplace that work. I mean, there's things that you really want to be wary of if somebody's, like, promoting, like, X amount of energy. And the truth of the matter is, if you take a look at and I have a link to this, the 100 most peer-reviewed look to clinical studies with LED that were for a myriad of diseases and maladies of the body, all of them were successful. And they vary in energy output from a quarter of a joule all the way to 96 joules. And this is like 100 different tests of all different things. And energy output, has a very small, plays a small part in it. And green light, you should be, like, wary of any device that has green LED in it, because it's unproven. I mean, until there's like 20, 25 clinical studies that are peer reviewed and that weren't sponsored by somebody that had a vested interest in them. And I haven't even actually seen one, but it's been promoted by China to use green LED for hyperpigmentation. That's the biggest thing that's promoted for. And the problem with hyperpigmentation is that it doesn't matter what color LED you use on it, or infrared, which is no color, you can't see it really. It could work on one person and not work on the next 10. And then it'll work on 4 and not work on the next 5. And there's no rhyme or reason to whether or not LED will actually handle hyperpigmentation for someone.
What are some of the leading reasons that people would pursue this sort of therapy?
Um, well, first off, there's aesthetic. Okay, so
Right.
it's been used heavily in the aesthetics for 35 years now, starting with derms using blue light for acne. And I think blue light will eventually go away. We're actually seeing better results using red and infrared than blue.
Okay.
Because the red and infrared also reduces the redness and inflammation of acne, which is most visually impacting. And it has enough heat to kill the P. acnes bacteria. And that's the only thing blue is really doing, is killing that P. acnes bacteria that causes acne. But And then beyond aesthetics, it's well used for pain.
Right.
It's the latest clinical studies actually have to do with the brain and getting neural connections working better in the brain. I listed off those other studies that we had participated in with supplying the devices for. Um, but somebody's got diabetes and has poor blood circulation in the
Sure.
legs. I mean, these poor, unfortunate people end up having to have toes and feet and legs amputated because of this poor circulation, and then they a sore that won't heal. And LED can help with that. Um, uh, yeah, there's so many things. Like it's like,
Yeah. No, it has a ton of applications.
yeah.
Steve, where do you see in the years to come? Where do you see red light therapy being implemented? I mean, are you looking to get this into like hospital systems, in-home care, preventative care, chronic pain, stuff like that? Is there anything down
I
the road you guys are working on?
yes, I think that I think that as soon as insurance companies start recognizing it, then it's going to change markedly. Like doctors are going to start doing a lot of preventative care with red light therapy, and red light therapy is a little bit of a misnomer because it's not actually just red light. There's amber and red and infrared and
Yeah.
blue. But like we did a clinical study for the FDA for reducing high blood pressure with our LED bed,
Okay.
and we reduced high blood pressure in this study between 2 and 4 times more than drugs do.
Wow.
And
Amazing.
we actually, the people that had a very high systolic, like 160 to 180, where you're in that range, you're in danger of having a stroke, actually. And in 3 treatments, like in 3 days, we averaged bringing them down between 30 and 40 points and getting them into normal territory. Um,
Wow.
and
That's quick.
and so this will be a big thing when it comes out. But we've been working with the FDA for 3 years now on it, and sometimes things take longer, but they're worthwhile because with that approval, that when we eventually get that, the device is also checks all the boxes for something that the FDA has. It's something called, I think it's a groundbreaking device or groundbreaking technology, where if you qualify for this, you automatically get covered by the insurance companies for 4 years, and that's really what we need is for insurance companies to start uh, covering and not with just like right now they'll make some payments of like $12, $16 or something like that, which doesn't, it's not even worth the doctor's time to have somebody do the paperwork to get paid that money. So
Right.
nobody uses it. But once that happens, and once the insurance companies actually start saving money on care for their clients, then I think you're going to see a whole new world open up in LED, where big money, maybe even pharma. I mean, to give you an example of pharma maybe being interested in it. You've got Viagra and Cialis. Well, did you know that, and you could Google this, Viagra and Cialis only work for 60% of the male population on the planet.
Mm.
And the other 40% don't really have enough available nitric oxide to activate the drug. And that's a molecule that activates the drug. Well, that could be changed with the right device that gets the right penetration and you've got the right wavelengths. That could be changed overnight, literally, where you release this trapped nitric oxide that's in the body and make it available to the body to utilize. And they'd have almost half the male population of the planet would now be able to benefit from that.
Wow. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. I'm amazed at how many applications there could be for LED. Um,
Well,
yeah. I'm sure
I
it's
just
exciting.
I just thought of another one that was a really good one. Like again, given good depth of penetration and the right wavelengths, you can release serotonin and dopamine.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
so there are some psychiatric centers and some drug rehab places actually successfully using LED for depression
Wow.
because of this huge release of serotonin and dopamine.
Yeah. And actually quite a few migraine medications are manipulating the release of serotonin as well, mimicking serotonin.
I
So
can definitely see where it could help with headaches because I like to read you something that my medical officer wrote for
yeah.
me on this. It says it addresses both the source of pain and the sensation of pain. And we're talking about headaches now. It says it does this by helping to heal damaged tissues and relieves the sensation of pain by influencing neurotransmitters that normally transmit pain signals that promote the sensation of pain. So it reduces that. It calms overexcited nerves and inhibits those pain signals. It releases serotonin again, like I said, which plays a role in pain regulation. And here's a big one: relaxes muscles of the head, scalp, neck, and jaw. Which
Hmm.
a lot of people have headaches that are starting right here
Hmm.
from tension. LED, and I'm not promoting any of these things with LightStim devices. We have specific clearances that we're allowed to, but I'm just saying these are things that LED has been proven in
Right.
clinical studies to help with.
Right. Absolutely. So, Steve, where are some, like, if someone's going to go try to find, a, a yeah, basically an avenue for therapy, LED therapy, um, how would they go about finding a LightStim table? Are there resources available? Can they follow you on certain social channels, or just
Yeah,
like,
yeah, well, yes, they can do that, but very shortly. Um, you'll be able to go into almost any fitness franchise. Pretty much all of the big ones have come to Lightstim. Massage Envy, Hand and Stone, all the massage ones, tanning, all the tanning salons. We're Palm Beach Tan, Suntan City, Seattle Sun, iTan, uh, Republic Tan, like all these big franchises are jumping on this wellness bandwagon. And in the case of the gyms, it's recovery, so that recovery from their workout and that sort of thing. And they're all trying to do a really good job. They do their research before they commit to anybody, and so very shortly, I would say within 6 months, most of these large franchises in all these different sectors of aesthetics, massage, fitness, wellness and recovery clinics, you'll be able to go in and get a very reasonably priced service.
that's incredible. Well, Steve, thank you. Thank you for joining us on the Headache Doctor podcast. This podcast episode partnered with the last one I did on LEDs and red light therapy. I think it's an incredible service, and it's an incredible therapy, helping people with all sorts of different conditions, being able to treat it from a more natural, holistic, source oriented type of way, instead of potentially masking with medication, things like that. So thank you for your work. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me and for getting the word out to everybody. It's very important what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, to the listener and the viewer there on YouTube, thank you guys for being a part of this journey with us. As always, it's our mission to educate and empower everyone with headaches and migraines so that you can break free from a life of fear of your next headache or migraine and dependence on medication. We'll see you next week.